All right, so move on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my thoughts on my favorite NBA eras in NBA history. So I have three eras in NBA history that are my personal favorites of all time. So I'll start at number one and go to number three in that particular order for this segment. So number one is going to be the 2010s era of basketball. I think the 2010s decade is the best era in NBA history. Yeah, I'm a little biased because I'm a youngster, but I think the 2010s era of basketball in the NBA world changed the game of basketball forever, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But in the 2010s decade, you got to see a lot of all-time greats in the prime of their career, starting with the king LeBron James. LeBron James in the prime of his career was amazing to watch. You've seen him go win several titles and win several MVPs, appearing in 9 straight NBA finals during the 2010s decade. And there were several super teams during this era of basketball. And it all kicked off in the late 2000s era with Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, what they built in Boston. But in the 2010s decade, the super teams era really kicked off with the Miami Heat, the Chicago Bulls, the Boston Celtics, the San Antonio Spurs still having Duncan, Manu, and Parker, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and of course that run with the Golden State Warriors in the late 2010s era. But we witnessed some of the greatest finals of all time in the 2010s era with the Miami Heat and the San Antonio Spurs, that going to 7, and the 2016 comeback of the Cleveland Cavaliers overcoming a 3-1 deficit against the Golden State Warriors. But in the 2010s decade, you seen competitive basketball on both sides of the court, no load management, just straight hoops for the love of the game of basketball with true competition for a total of 82 games in the regular season. And we witnessed some amazing things that we might not see ever again in history. Like we witnessed the youngest NBA MVP in league history, Derrick Rose winning the MVP award at 22 years of age. We've seen the rise of several all-time greats, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard. And I still believe the 2016 season is actually the greatest season in NBA history, with the Golden State Warriors breaking the Chicago Bulls all-time record, going 73-9 in NBA regular season. You'll never see that happen again. And the best send-off game in NBA history with Kobe Bryant, what he did in his final game, having over 60 points against the Utah Jazz. We witnessed that incredible 3-1 comeback with the Cleveland Cavaliers overcoming a 3-1 deficit against the Golden State Warriors in the finals. We also witnessed some of the greatest dunk contests of all time in the 2010s decade. And I think the 2011 NBA draft is one of the most important draft classes a part of this decade, because you had a lot of great players come out like Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Kemba Walker, Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler. They all had important roles in the 2010s decade, and you've seen the growth of international basketball. Now you're seeing international basketball bigger than ever before, but it all started in this decade because you had Giannis, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid all come into the NBA and set the tone for international players to be at the top of their game today in the league. And the league changed to positionless basketball. Like the game changed forever. 3-point shooting, thanks to the Splash Brothers of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, they changed scoring forever. Now you have a power forward and a center going out to shoot threes. I mean, you see Victor Wembanyama basically shooting from the parking lot, and pivotal playoff game scenarios. When would you ever see that in any era of basketball? It all started in the 2010s era. So I think my era, growing up watching basketball, there's nothing better than the 2010s era. But there's a debatable conversation for the OGs, and that would be the 1990s. I think the 1990s decade of basketball was pretty special. I think the 90s for NBA, it was pretty special, and I wish I was old enough to watch the era of the 90s in sports. I was born in 98, so I didn't get to see the golden era, but in the NFL, the NBA, you could even throw it to the WWE, WCW during the Monday Night War. Like, everything was perfect during the 90s. But the NBA world, the 90s decade will always be special because the Bulls dominated that era, going on 2 3-peats in that decade. We'll probably see never see anything duplicated like that ever again. And Michael Jordan, this was his decade. I mean, Michael Jordan established himself as an all-time great. Several MVPs, 6 NBA championships, several scoring titles. And you've seen the rise of a lot of all-time greats in the 90s decade. I mean, you've seen Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, John Stockton, Hakeem Olajuwon, Reggie Miller, and several others perform and become all-time greats in the 90s era. And the rivalries that will live on for the test of time, like the Chicago Bulls versus the bad boy Detroit Pistons. That rivalry was very deep, and it's still very personal to this day because Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas still aren't on speaking terms to this day. And it even got so bad that Michael Jordan refused to have Isaiah Thomas on that all-time great Olympic team in the 90s. The Olympic Dream Team had a taste of everything in the 90s, the greatest Olympic team of all time. And there were several competitive playoff series that will always stand the test of time in NBA playoff history. The Michael Jordan flu game against the Utah Jazz. You have the Pacers and the Knicks series that happened in the 90s. And the 1996 NBA draft class was one of the best draft classes of all time because you had Kobe Bryant, Ray Allen, Allen Iverson, Steve Nash, and several others a part of it. The jerseys were incredible. Coaching was outstanding. You had all-time great coaches like Phil Jackson, Pat Riley, Chuck Daly, and Jerry Sloan. Like, the game was very physical and very rough. Like, you had to be very skillful and very mental tough to dominate and score at will in this series. And plus, there were several lockouts in this series that the league witnessed. So I think the 1990s era is definitely one of the best eras of all time. And then I'm looking at the 2000s era. I think the 2000s era, after that golden 1990s era, I think the 2000s era, that 2000s decade actually picked up right where the 90s left off. Like, it might not be as important, but I think that era of basketball carried the load for the NBA to make the game of basketball even more popular to the level that it's at now, whether it's popular in the States and overseas around the world. And we witnessed the greatest dunk contest performance of all time in the 2000s with Vince Carter. And you look at it, you had the greatest scoring performance in televised history. Yeah, I know the Bam Adebayo 83-point game against the Washington Wizards exists this season, but Kobe Bryant dropping 81 points is the greatest televised game in NBA history, where you dropped 81 points against the Toronto Raptors back in 2006, and you witnessed the three-peat of one of the greatest duos in NBA history of Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal, one of the greatest duos of all time, when they had three-peats in LA with the Los Angeles Lakers. You also had a great dynasty of the San Antonio Spurs of Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and Greg Popovich. Overall, they won a total of 5 NBA titles together. Yeah, they got their final one in the 2010s decade, where they won their 4th and final championship overall. I know Tim Duncan won 5 chips, but he's seen the peak of power forward basketball. Like, the forward position will never see any type of play like this ever again, because the 3 best power forwards of all time were in the prime of their careers during this run of Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and Dirk Nowitzki. Now, in my opinion, I think the 2003 NBA draft is the greatest draft class of all time, because they had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and Carmelo Anthony, 4 all-time greats a part of the draft class. But I think the 2009 NBA MVP race, a part of this era, was very important as well, because you had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant, Chris Paul, and Dwight Howard all a part of the race. I think Dwayne Wade should have won it that year, but it went to LeBron. I think that's the greatest NBA MVP race of all time. Plus, you had defensive basketball change forever. Like, in the 90s, you never seen any 3-2 zones. You never seen any 2-3 zones. You never seen any 3-second violations for standing too long in the paint. And Michael Jordan even said with defensive schemes like that, he would have never done his thing in the 90s. So I think basketball changed forever in all 3 of those eras. And from 1 through 3, I think those are the most important and most special eras in basketball, in my opinion. Again, I got number 1, the 2010s decade. 2, I'll go with the 1990s. And 3, I'll go with the 2000s decade. But all 3, I think those are the best eras of basketball, in my opinion, and NBA history.